Welcome, welcome. So thank you all for joining me. I'm Dr. Heather Sanderson, and you are here for the webinar regarding Marama and how you can take some of what we have learned at Marama, the residential care facility for the elderly that I created in 2019, 2020, and use that at home to help you or your loved one reverse their cognitive decline. So tonight we're going to talk particularly about how you can create a more healing environment. This is one of my very favorite things to do. I love design and decorating and making a place feel not only aesthetically pleasing, but also very healing by incorporating nature and other things that we're going to dig into tonight. So I'm so excited you have joined me, and we'll go ahead and get started, jumping into it. So you know who I am. I think most of you probably know me from the summit, the Reverse Alzheimer's Summit. And if I didn't introduce myself properly there, I'll let you know a little bit more about me and my background and why I have any credibility at all to show up here and share some insights I have with you. First, I am a naturopathic doctor, so I have a 4-year medical degree. I'm trained and licensed as a primary care provider. However, my focus is on dementia and cognitive function. I kind of run the gamut of optimizing, helping CEOs and people who are looking to optimize cognitive function for work performance and also mental health for anxiety, depression, and equanimity, hopefully happiness, and optimizing for joy and fulfillment. So we help at that level. And then also on the other end of the spectrum, where we are looking to reverse cognitive decline, even in very severe patients. So I got into this work after being trained by Dr. Bredesen. I really appreciated his approach. And some of you may have heard me tell this story, but I went to his training very skeptical, very excited, because the whole concept made sense, right? He describes these 36 holes in the roof, and if you patch one, you still have a leaky roof. And dementia is one of those things where we're told over and over there's nothing you can do about it. But part of the reason why is because there isn't a solution that matches in complexity the disease process. So it's a very complex disease process that leads to inflammation in the brain, scarcity of resources and energy in the brain, that leads to a degradation of cognitive function, and also can lead, of course, to beta amyloid plaques and tau proteins and some of the things that we think of conventionally creating dementia. So when Dr. Bredesen described this approach, I was excited. It made sense to me. The concept made sense. We take a complex system science approach, but I was still skeptical. And so it was my early patients who showed me what was possible. I saw my first patient, Linda, reverse severe dementia, and she didn't go back to work, but her language improved, her relationship with her husband improved, her joy and engagement in the world was radically different just 6 weeks after we started working together. And so seeing that made me dedicate my life to this work, because I realized what was possible for people maybe who were earlier on in the disease process. We could completely prevent them from having to suffer the way her and her husband were. So I graduated from Bastyr in Seattle in 2013, back to my story. I was trained by Dr. Bredesen in 2017. And in 2019, I was fortunate enough to receive a grant to study our process in the clinic, basically my version of Dr. Bredesen's approach. We took 25 participants through a feasibility trial. We just basically wanted to say, hey, with this complex intervention, can we get people who are, cognitively declined, can we get them to do it at home on their own? With, of course, our guidance and support. And so sure enough, we can, and we're excited to publish those results. It took us a while to get through it because we were funded at the very beginning of January of 2020. And then COVID hit right afterwards. So lots of things got delayed, but we're really excited to publish those results. And Dr. Bredesen's paper just was finally peer-reviewed, is in the July issue of the Journal of Alzheimer's and Dementia, that journal. And so we're really excited that the research is starting to get out there, showing how much power, how profound this intervention is. So check that out if you haven't already, and we'll be sending out emails. So check your email. If we'll make sure that you get a link to that article, so that if you have anybody maybe in your family who's a little skeptical, like I used to be 5, 6 years ago, you can pass on that trial to them. 84% of their participants had improvements in cognitive function. super exciting stuff. So I'm also the founder of Marama, which I referred to. That's what we're doing here tonight. And over the next 4 weeks is talking about some of the pillars, the 4 pillars of Marama. So tonight we'll start with creating a healing environment. So we'll talk about these 4 pillars of Marama, is kind of how I see them. They hold up that structure of getting this Bredesen protocol done so that you can get the benefits. And so at Marama, it's a residential care, RCFE stands for Residential Care Facility for the Elderly. And the reason I started Marama was because of patients like Linda, where I saw them getting so much better. And there were quite a few of them that didn't have the support they needed at home to implement. And so as I started having people ask me, where can I send my loved one? I realized there wasn't a place and thought to myself, how hard could it be? Let's just start our own. And so that is Marama. Love doing that. It is just an absolute privilege to watch people transform there. I'm also the founder of Solseri. That's where I am right now, doing this webinar from. It's a clinic in San Diego. Marama is also in San Diego. And so it's a clinic here in San Diego where we do the medical side of things. And that's where we did the clinical research trial. And then I've also been a caregiver. So when we took over at Marama, I had the privilege of supporting elderly folks who were living there. They weren't in the Marama concept quite yet. They were people who were already living in the facility that we took over. And I just had the profound privilege of helping one of them transition and at her death, which was just very, very moving, such a privilege. And then also caring for people day to day, being there overnight and helping them get through moments of anxiety, helping them with, after they have lost some dignity with toileting and bathing and all of the things that many of you know so well that come up as people progress through the aging process, really. So a couple of housekeeping pieces here. Replays will be available. That's always a question that comes up. Yes, this webinar will be available. There will be a replay. It'll be posted on the Marama website, which is maramaexperience.com. So this will be available and all 4 weeks will be available. They're being recorded. We're going to do 30 to 45 minutes, kind of depending on the topic. I'll do a presentation about the topic of the week, and then there will be plenty of time for Q&A. There's a chat, and you're welcome to put things in the chat. It's really helpful for me if you put questions in the Q&A, and that's where I will go first when I'm done with my presentation. So throw those questions in the Q&A. In the chat, I would love for all of you to introduce yourselves to each other. A big part of what I hope to create with Marama, Solseri, is the community. And really, I hope I have value to add here. And really, you each have so much value to add with what you've learned. You may have the answer to someone's burning question about a resource that they need, about a quick, shortcut to getting something that feels really time consuming or stressful done. So please introduce yourselves, tell us where you are. You might know a great doctor or a great, supplement that works really, really well. Share that with each other. Put your questions in the chat or in the Q&A. I will get to as many as possible, and then please answer them for each other. And there's also the APOE4.info. That community is also phenomenal. Julie G, who you may have met in the summit, she created that. And another great place for people to connect. There's also a Facebook group. So I encourage you, especially if you're looking for resources, or if you have inspiring stories about the success you had at home, please share that. The value of this community is so, so, so high. So where are we going? Tonight, we're going to talk about creating a healing environment. And I have until 6:30 Pacific time. And then next week, I'll see you consecutive Mondays for 4 weeks. We're going to be living the keto diet for a healthy brain. And week 3 will be brain stimulating activities and exercise, especially. We'll talk about all of that and give you, I hope each week, every week, including tonight, you will walk away feeling like you have some tangible things that you can implement immediately that will hopefully move the needle for you or your loved one. And then the 4th week, we'll talk about the Marama approach to care. And I'm really hoping that I'm going to get to be trained a little bit in person by Teepa Snow between now and then. We're trying to work that out right now. So again, replays will be available, 30 to 45 minutes of presentation, plenty of time for Q&A afterwards. I'll get to as many as I can. If there aren't that many, then we'll end early, up to you guys. So why are we here? The reason that I get out of bed every day, the reason that I'm here is because I have seen that Alzheimer's is optional. Nearly everyone can prevent dementia. For my generation, I think 99% of people should not have to get dementia. And I believe that because I've seen it prevented, I've seen it reversed, especially in those early stages, and Alzheimer's prevented, right? When somebody has mild cognitive impairment, objective cognitive impairment is measurable cognitive impairment. We can pick it up on a MOCA or another cognitive screening test. If it's early on, we can reverse it pretty much every single time, as long as you're willing to do the work. So that's the key. You've got to be willing to do the work. And that, in my mind, yes, it takes work. However, it's criminal to tell people that there's not anything they can do if they start to notice cognitive decline, because that's just factually inaccurate. So my goal is to change the narrative and give people access to as many tools as possible to implement a pretty complex protocol as comprehensively as possible and as early as possible in their disease process, so that they can take advantage of this option of making Alzheimer's optional and a rare disease. Even in people who have a relatively severe cognitive decline, or of course, measurable objective cognitive decline, and Alzheimer's diagnosis, even with people in that category, we see miracles happen all the time. It takes work, it takes some resource, it does require money and time and effort, but it is possible. And so I believe that anybody who's at risk, anybody suffering, should know what they can do about it. I also come from a space of valuing intergenerational wisdom transfer, right? This idea that our elders are at the height of their wisdom and experience. They have so much to give, and yet it's a resource that we're squandering today in our society. And so who do we want to be? How would I want my mom treated? How do I want to be treated when I'm in my 80s and 90s? And so thinking from that perspective of, what's possible in terms of changing our story around our elders, instead of parking them in front of TVs, kind of putting them out to pasture to eat cake and ice cream and cereal and bread, all of the things that are worse for our brain health. Instead of doing that, we can bring them back into the fabric of our society, where they can be caring for the youngest among us, perhaps, or staying engaged in their work, their community, their church, whatever is of value to them. And so ultimately, even though I created Marama, my professional goal is to make places like that obsolete, to keep people at home, to keep people engaged, to make Alzheimer's a rare disease so that no one has to suffer, or very, very few people. Of course, ideally, no one has to suffer. So if you share those goals with me, thank you for joining me and welcome to the club. Let's get into how to do it. So here are some books that I love. And so what I'm sharing tonight is a little snippet of the Marama at Home Caregiver Training course that's available, and I'll share the link with you. But I'm sharing a bit of that. It's an 11-part course. And so you'll see at the bottom of these slides, it says Caregiver Training course. So I've pulled some of these slides from there to share with you tonight. And this is one of them. These are some books that I love, that I go back to. Of course, all of Dr. Bredeson's books are fantastic. That's the foundation of everything that I do. And then if you want to dig deeper into some of these other pieces, how to connect with people who how to connect with someone who has Alzheimer's. Certainly all of Teepa Snow's information online. I highly recommend going down her YouTube rabbit hole. It's fantastic. If you are struggling to communicate, if you're finding yourself triggered, which happens, when you're caring for someone with dementia, it's easy to take it personally when they don't remember what you just said. They're repeating questions. It's easy to get frustrated, especially if we're not sleeping well, those kinds of things. So Teepa's work, Joanne's work around how to create compassion for both yourself and others, and giving you some great strategies and tools. Great, really, really great resource. The Neurogenesis Diet and Lifestyle by my friend, Dr. Bryant Courtwright. Really great. The Alzheimer's Antidote as well. Those are both great books, especially for professionals who want to dive into the science of how the ketogenic diet works, and then also other lifestyle factors. Then Norman Doidge's book, The Brain's Way of Healing, lots of great examples, lots of thoughts and ideas about how to turn on the healing power of your brain and your entire body. So creating a healing environment. All right, so diving into the topic at hand for tonight, finally. I want you to think through your environment and just imagine for a moment with me the outdoor space. We'll go through these and I'll give you some tips and tricks and things we've learned at Marama, things that we know from the science, things I've learned, especially around toxicology, what our exposures are. So we'll go through each of these in more detail, but I want you to just first take stock of your environment. So think through the outdoor space. Is it a healing environment? Do you feel at ease there? Do you feel like your nervous system can get into a rest, digest, and heal state? Or does it put you in more of a fight, flight, freeze state? What happens in the living room? When you walk into your bedroom, is it designed for good, high quality sleep? Your kitchen? Are there snacks out all over the place and lots of things that raise your blood sugar? Are the countertops cluttered? They make you feel overwhelmed? What's going on in the kitchen? The bathroom? This is a place, we'll talk a little bit about mold. The bathroom and the laundry room, if you're prone to leaks or water damage, this can be a big, big issue for cognitive decline. So just taking stock. All right. Then going through kind of keeping those places in mind, a non-toxic environment really starts with getting a lot of fresh air. So having the windows and doors open, one of the things that I recommend to everyone, unless you're literally like next to the freeway, the indoor air quality is always going to be more toxic than outdoor air quality. And this is because the solution to pollution is dilution, right? So outdoor air quality is so dilute that you don't have to worry. If you can just open the doors and windows, you're going to be blowing a lot of that indoor pollution outside. So where does this come from, right? This can come from, I'd recommend everybody get rid of like Glade plugins, highly neurotoxic. Any smells that are not natural, that essential oils can sometimes be okay. But like at Marama, we try to do no smell and only natural scents when there are scents. It should really only be coming from the kitchen, those yummy smells from the kitchen, because unnatural scents like the pine sol or like those air fresheners that dangle in the car, our body doesn't know what to do with them. Our brain doesn't know what to do with them. And they can be highly neurotoxic. A lot of those air fresheners, they also have formaldehyde and other things in them. So you want to keep those out of the house. Also just paints off gas, carpets off gas. There can be mold, as I mentioned. In mold, sometimes, I don't want to scare everyone, but we're holding two things here. We want to be as well educated as possible so we can be making good decisions. And we don't want to be so overly anxious that we have to hide from the world, or it paralyzes us from taking any sort of action. So I want to give you lots of information. I don't want it to be overwhelming, but I understand that it can start to feel that way. Just do what you can. So non-toxic environment, having a good high quality air filter is another way to combat this. So even if there is mold or you are close to the freeway and there's lots of petrochemicals, if you do have brand new furniture or brand new carpet or something like that that is off-gassing, getting an air filter can reduce the amount of toxin in the air. You want to get a good one. I don't make any money from this, but the IQ Air, the GC Multi by IQ Air is the one that I recommend to patients. So that's one way to go about that. Another thing to consider with a healing environment is incorporating nature. So having plants, natural light coming through, even having art on the walls that represents nature, abstract art, whatever, pictures, photos, whatever it is, if you can incorporate nature into your environment, that helps to bring down stress levels. And that can create more of a healing environment, right? We go into a rest, digest, and heal state versus a fight, flight, freeze state. So we want to be in that parasympathetic state. That's how our brain is going to be able to heal best. And then uncluttered environments. I mentioned this with the kitchen example, right? So if you walk into a room and you've got bags piled up, the return pile, or, there's boxes that haven't been broken down, from, the Amazon boxes that pile up, or there's just stuff, even if there are appliances all over the countertops, this can start to make us feel anxious. It can make us feel like there's unfinished business, right? Most of us can relate to that. And so there's a calm that comes over us when we can get rid of that stuff. It's not in our visual field taking up space. So I highly encourage you to declutter as much as possible. Get rid of that stuff. Just check that box and move on so that it's not taking up brain space that could be used for healing. Then when we think about, the way I kind of think about this is all of our senses, right? Our environment, we have a visual field, we have what we hear, we have what we can smell. There's of course what we can taste in the kitchen, and then there's what we feel. And so having an uncluttered visual field, having that natural light coming into our eyes, having nature in your visual field, all can really help. And then with scents, we want to make sure they're non-toxic scents. At Marama, we try to do no scent. And part of the reason is because lavender is meant to be highly soothing and relaxing. However, some people are triggered by lavender. They don't like the smell. They associate it with their stepmom, or something came up for them and they're triggered by that. So we really aim for no smells at all. But if there's one that is soothing for you, calming for you, then you can maybe diffuse essential oils or something, as long as it's natural. It's not an artificial scent. And then with our hearing, quiet, soothing sounds are so important. I often will tell the story. The first time I went into what is now the Marama facility, it was Ascot Home Care then. I walked into one of the main kind of communal rooms, and there were literally 3 TVs on the wall, and they were turned up because, somebody's hard of hearing. And one was this loud blaring infomercial. Another was there was sports on TV. And I remember the sound of the piercing whistle, and I was like, oh, cringing. And then the other was stressful news or something. I don't remember exactly what all was on them, but I was walking in to sort of assess, like, could this be where Marama is born? And I couldn't think straight. And I can only imagine if I had dementia and I had walked into that room, or I had sat down in that room and there were elderly folks in that room that day, that I wouldn't have been able to create a thought. I mean, I couldn't with hopefully full cognitive capacity. I was still having trouble finding my thoughts, making sense of things. I had to excuse myself. I had to walk out of the room and ask that we have a conversation in a different room because it was so distracting. So I highly recommend that you limit the amount of sound in the rooms to quiet, soothing, and natural sounds. So the sound of a gurgling brook, or wind in the trees, or the sound of ocean waves. If you want white noise in the background, those can be helpful, or soothing music, familiar music. Of course, many of our residents, they love sing-alongs, and we'll do that sometimes, but even we have several residents who have connections to Hawaii, so we'll put some slack key guitar in the background, or other residents who loved going to the symphony, and so we'll put classical music on in the background, and that can be very soothing and calming. But if the TV is blaring newscasters and infomercials and sports, that is not, I think you get what I'm saying, comfortable. So this is touch. So incontinence is one of the realities of helping folks who are aging. And so we aim for leather almost 100% of the time. Now, if there's anything people are going to sit on, we just make sure it's leather. And then we do use chucks, which change that comfort level. But that is a strategy. The microfibers and things are also very nice. We stay away from artificial, like vinyls and stuff like that. And then anything that's scratchy, right? We want this to be comfortable. We want you to be able to get into a rest, digest, and heal state so your brain can heal. And if you're sitting on a chair that's uncomfortable, or you have a bed that isn't comfortable, if anything about it is not comforting, then you're probably not going to get into that rest, digest, and heal state. We talked about natural scents and limiting distractions. You know, especially if you're trying to have a conversation with your loved one about, you know, any of the myriad of quite high stakes things that start to come up as someone ages, if you're having a serious conversation, maybe considering moving into memory care or out of independent living and into more assisted living, these conversations, I highly recommend setting up a space where maybe it's in the morning. There are very few distractions. So if your phone is going to ring, it's on silent. If there's a little dog that's going to yip or yap or run into the room, they've been put away or they're being attended to. If there's a child that's going to need attention, they are, you know, napping or otherwise being attended to, so that that person that you're communicating with has as much on their side when it comes to communicating and processing this information as possible, right? We want to set them up for success. And that's going to mean working a little bit harder than what it might have been like for someone in their 40s. So I'm excited to see what questions you have about this, and we'll dive into what it looks like at Marama. So this is actually an old picture from right after we put up these greenhouses. It's changed quite a bit. I need to update this because we now have a railing, making it much safer to walk along this path. There's a railing here, and this is all grown in, and there's a trellis with lily koi vines or passion fruit vines. It's a lot of fun down there, and the residents love going down and gardening. So when it comes to outdoor environment, what are some important considerations? And just think about your outdoor environment. First of all, do you have outdoor space? Do you have safe outdoor space that you can spend time in? This, you know, if you're in Phoenix right now, it's not safe to be outside. It's too hot. And so is there a way to have maybe a room in your house that's like a little bit indoor, outdoor, maybe that can be closed off, and you can have air conditioning going in there to keep the temperature more mild so that you can get the benefit of that outdoor environment without actually, you know, roasting, without cooking. So what's safe? Same thing, you know, goes for maybe the Northeast in the middle of the winter. Can you create a sunroom, or is there something similar to that where you can stay warm, stay safe, but also get the benefits of being outside? And then remembering, whenever we're thinking about, I think of James Clear. He wrote the book Atomic Habits, and whatever is easy is what we're going to do habitually. So in the outdoor environment, is it easy to get to? Like if you have to unlatch 6 gates, or you know, if you have to do all of these things, then it's not going to be easy. So you're probably not going to use that space. So what could you do to make it a little bit easier? Then is there a garden? Is there something to do outside? Is there something fun to do, something enjoyable, something engaging? Our residents often teach us about gardening because they have lots of experience doing it. So they're telling us about how much sun certain things need, or how much water, or what other things they like to be near. And it's really fun to engage with someone in that way, where they our residents have confidence that kind of helps to boost this idea that they're still contributing. So if that's something that someone you are caring for appreciates, then please encourage them to do those things that they're good at, where they can share their wisdom, especially with younger generations. And then, are there chairs? Is there a place to relax? Is there shade, maybe water? Can they get to the bathroom easily? Or is there going to be a hike back inside if someone needs to use the restroom? And we talked about temperature, of course. So imagine your space. And is there a way that you can tweak it a little bit more so that you get even more healing and more benefit from your outdoor environment? I'd love to hear what comes up for everyone. And then what about your living room? So again, this is a picture from Marama, and this is a microfiber couch, which we still have, but we would not buy again because it is microfiber and not leather. So comfort, it is a very comfortable couch. Distractions, if it's easy to turn on the TV and the TV is on all the time, what you end up doing is watching TV, right? But if there are games and books and art projects and fun things, fun people to socialize with who are around, and that's what's easy, then that's what you'll end up doing. So how can you make those activities easily accessible and quick to kind of get into for anyone who has dementia, right? They don't remember all the time. And so if what's on is the TV, sometimes we forget, oh, that's not what is best for my brain. Where's the, where are the books, where are the games, where are the cards? And if they have to go dig them out, then it's going to be less likely that it'll happen. So again, those distractions, are there people coming and going? Are the doors opening and closing? Are there pots and pans that you can hear that are banging? Is there a dog? Maybe the dog is wonderful and a joy, not a distraction. But depending on that person, maybe just assessing what are the distractions that come up, and are they pleasant ones? Do they contribute, or are they maybe distracting to a degree that it's hard to ever focus and put the mental effort and energy into like brain games and the things that are going to benefit you. And then the sites, again, that uncluttered space, this Zen-like space or a spa-like space is the feel that we go for at both Marama and at Solseri, the clinic. And then the sounds again, and the smells. What is coming up in your living room? Are the doors and windows open? Are you getting fresh air in there? What is the feel when you walk into your living area? Is it a healing, comfortable feeling? Or are there, again, little things that you can tweak to make it more of a healing space? Bedroom. So I just recently purchased, I moved recently, which is wild, always an adventure. And I purchased a migraine mattress for my new mattress, and I love it. We have all avocado mattresses. I'm kind of assessing the different ones, making sure that they're all comfy. Both of those are relatively affordable. The Sanina mattresses are your big ticket mattresses. But all of them are organic, less likely to mold. What we want to be aware of with mattresses is that we spend a third of our lives on them, right? So we spend so much time in a mattress. It's a place to invest your shoes and your mattress, right? So I highly recommend an organic mattress so that you're not breathing in any potential off-gassing from that. And then what we do at Marama for bedding, we just get sheets from Target or Amazon, the organic cotton, 100% cotton organic sheets. And then we tend to use the Kaiichi, I think is how you say it. They have really pretty stuff for quilts and throws and duvet covers and that kind of thing. We use the duvet covers from Avocado as well, and also the pillows from there. But you can get, I just recommend organic, right? You're spending so much time in your bed. You don't want to be exposed to things at night. That's when you're meant to be detoxifying. During your sleep, getting good, restful, deep sleep allows the lymphatics. There's this contracting and expanding that happens in your brain at night that is like washing out the toxins from your brain. And so you want to make sure that there's not, if light bothers your sleep, then you want to be sleeping, of course, during those nighttime dark hours. And then if like right now, we're so close to the solstice still, if light wakes you up in the morning, you're not able to get enough restful sleep, then can you get blackout curtains? What is your bedroom environment like? Is there a street light right outside that shines in your bedroom window? Then you may want to invest in some blackout curtains, and I would recommend that. Then also, of course, sound, right? Is there a lot of sound? Can you get good restful sleep? Are you able to sleep through the night? One thing to note, and we don't go into this too much, but sleep is we won't go into this in the 4 pillars of Marama, but on the clinical side, if you have any reason to think that you have sleep apnea, please go get a sleep study done right away. And if they tell you have mild or moderate sleep apnea, treat it anyways. You can see a dentist, you can see a sleep specialist, you can use mouth tape, you can use the nose breathe right strips, you can get a mouth guard, whatever you need to do to make sure that your airway stays open at night. And sometimes changing your mattress can change your sleep scores significantly, changing the light, changing the temperature of the bedroom. Most people sleep better with a little, like the chili pad is a product that's out there. Most people sleep better if it's a little bit cooler in the room. So just keeping that in mind, that sleep, because of that lymphatic process at night, because you need to get oxygen to your brain at night. If you're not getting oxygen to your brain at night, it's essentially like a traumatic brain injury every night. where it's not okay for a doctor like me. We want to treat aggressively. So thinking about, again, this is a third of our lives is spent in bed or sleeping. So we need to get good quality sleep. If you maybe want to track this, we've used the Garmin. We use the Garmin Vivo Smart for the clinical trial we did here. We found that that was the most accurate at getting information, but the Oura Ring is another one people really like. And it's a ring versus a bracelet. The Apple Watches, I think, also collect a lot of good information. But if you are not sure if your sleep is good, then getting something that tracks it so that you can see how it changes as you adjust the environment, or maybe start wearing mouth tape or nose strips, if you can get some sense of what the interventions are doing and what the quality of your sleep is, that's a really great place to put some effort, because it has such a high return. If there's an issue there and you fix it, it really, really is critical to brain health. All right, the kitchen. So of course, when it comes to dementia, the first thing we want to think about in the kitchen is safety, right? Are the knives in a place where somebody isn't going to hurt themselves? Are the gas in a spot where it's not going to get left on? Those kinds of things are, of course, very, very, very important as someone is aging, and if they're losing their sense of what might be safe for them in the kitchen. So, and also hot surfaces, of course, keeping those in mind. And then there's so many things to think about in the kitchen, but food storage and cookware, I personally know too much. And so I know there's always the next thing available to buy. And if any brands of cookware want to send me a bunch, again, I just moved, I'm happy to try your stuff out. But I mostly just use cast iron or stainless steel. And it takes a little bit of work. I use, everybody says, oh, with cast iron, everything sticks. So never, ever, ever nonstick. Nonstick is horribly toxic, and it gets into your food when you kind of scrape if accidentally use a metal flipper, spatula, or a spoon or something. When you scrape that, it gets into your food and now you're eating it. Even just heating it, that Cephalon or Teflon, that will get into your food. Highly, highly toxic. Don't use it ever. The other thing to never, ever, ever do is put food in plastic, saran wrap over it in the microwave. Never, ever, ever. If you take one thing away tonight, it's that. No plastic in the microwave, no nonstick anything. So I just use cast iron, and I use a steel wool to scrub that out afterwards. And then I use stainless cookware for pots and stuff to boil anything or make a soup. And those are, I cook plenty, and that does it for me. At Marama, the chefs use that. We have the Cuisinart, I think is the brand of the stainless steel air fryer. That also is, I think, a small oven, toaster oven. So it's all stainless. We're not doing anything in plastic ever. And then I like to use the stoneware just because I like the look of it. Again, I'm a sucker for things that are pretty. So the Corelle is a great option because it doesn't chip. It's totally inert. It's totally non-toxic. It's made of a type of glass. So it's a great option for anybody kind of looking to create a non-toxic kitchen. And then glass 100% of the time for any food storage. We use the big mason jars. We use, the Pyrex to store things in. There's lots and lots of options out there, but do not use plastic to store food in because it will leach, and never, ever, ever heat plastic with food in it. And styrofoam, like if you're getting takeout, no styrofoam ever, 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 especially for things that are hot, and then that's usually what goes in there. So just to think about a few ways to keep the kitchen from being toxic. So there's the Le Creusettes are what's here. And I have Le Creuset. They're so pretty. They're so nice. And they chip. The ceramic, whatever that coating is on the inside, it will chip over time, and then it ends up in your food. So I just recommend straight cast iron. Now, if you have like a hemochromatosis or you have excess iron in your system, you may want to be a little bit more careful with that. But using cast iron is a way to get small amounts of iron in your, as almost like a supplement. So if you need it, then definitely cook with cast iron. Then in the kitchen environment, considering what's available for people to consume, right? If on the counter is a bunch of fruit, even though fruit is healthy, if you have someone who's struggling with cognitive decline and there's fruit out or cookies out on the countertop, then they may grab those when they walk by, even though they've been told that's not in the ketogenic diet. Right. So what you want to do is make sure the pantry, if the pantry is locked, then, do what you will. But on the countertops, what's accessible to people, you want to be sure there isn't a lot of food that's not on their diet. So just taking stock of that regularly and making sure that what's easy, again, what's easy is what's healthy. Cleaning products. Here are a couple of brands that I like. The EO, the Essential Oils Company, they make some great things. Branch Basics is a good one. We do use some Melaleuca. The Supernatural Clean is another one that we use. BioClean, BIOKLEEN. They do like dish detergent, laundry detergents, lots of those pieces. So those are good ones. Going towards non-toxic, unscented cleaning products as much as possible. And then of course, vinegar, lemon, alcohol. We spray with rubbing alcohol to sanitize. So we do not use any bleaches or anything like that because they are so neurotoxic. We don't use Pine Sol. We use all cleaning products that are non-toxic and with as little scent as possible. The bathroom, another place where the cleaning products come up. So just keeping in mind to use those non-toxic cleaning products. In the kitchen, I really like that Bonami. That's non-toxic, and it has so that you can scrub surfaces like the stove and stuff. Same in the bathroom. And personal care products come up in the bathroom as well. So like shaving creams and shampoos and soaps and lotions and all of that. So again, this picture here, this is a bathroom at Marama and it has that EO, that's that brand. And I think this is the lemon smell. They were out of it unscented when we hosted our opening party. I think this picture was taken. So the EO, and you can play with scents as long as they're soothing and again, healing for you. But I like that EO brand for hand soaps, for shampoos, conditioners, that kind of thing. We also love Dr. Bronner's. They're a local company here in Southern California, and they make that Castile soap. So they have the light blue one is their baby formula, and that's the one that's unscented. And for us in the bathroom, we make sure all of the towels are also organic. So we get those from Target or on Amazon, just the organic cotton towels. And then laundry. So this picture is not from Marama. This is from the internet, and it could have been from my house because I moved into a place with a front loading washer. And these I would highly recommend that you replace. And of course, in my mind, I was like, I'm moving into this place, it has a front loading washer, I'm gonna replace it. And what did it do? It didn't work. So I had to replace it immediately. And sure enough, it was moldy. So this is what we worry about. Front loading washers, it's that gasket. It always gets moldy. If you have one and you aren't in a spot where you can replace it, then at the very least, keep that door open and make sure every time you use it, you wipe down the gasket, every single surface you can get to. You like peel it back, do whatever. I know that's going to loosen it, whatever, but you do not want your clothes to get moldy from that gasket. I think it's a gasket. Don't judge me too harshly if that's not what it's called, but that rubber piece that allows the seal on the front, it has to dry every single time. Otherwise it'll get moldy. And sure enough, the one at the house I moved into was, and it's a nightmare. Everything smelled. I've got one load of laundry through there. Everything smelled like mold. You do not want mold in your clothes that you wear every day. You also don't want mold in your laundry room or your bathroom or your kitchen, anywhere. Just last week, we had a leak at Marama, and I'm hyper vigilant about any leaks ever. We've had a couple, this is the air conditioning unit is it's so hot right now too. And the air conditioning unit is in the attic and water started dripping through the ceiling into the bedroom below. And of course we freak out, call the repair guy. And there was a pipe that had just ruptured. It got old, I suppose. And it was plastic. And so water started dripping. We cut out way more of that ceiling drywall than we needed to. We wanted to make sure there was absolutely 100% no risk of mold. We had dehumidifiers going 24 hours a day until it could be fully repaired. We got it repaired as fast as possible. And part of that was getting the air conditioning back on because it's so bloody hot. So all of that took effort, but I highly recommend, and this was a pretty obvious case of water damage, but if you have any water damage, any leaks in your house, then you must get them fixed right away, because what can happen, the concept here, it's not that the mold itself is particularly toxic, although it can create allergens. Some people are allergic to it and can cause respiratory issues. But many of the molds that live in drywall, particularly Aspergillus, Penicillium, Fusarium, Stachybotrys, the toxic molds, they create toxins. So just like, those who inject Botox into their forehead, that's botulinum toxin. It's a toxin created by a bacteria that causes paralysis of the nerves. It's highly neurotoxic, right? And we use it for aesthetic purposes. Tetanus kills people for the same reason. It's not the bacteria that causes paralysis and leads to tetany. It is the toxin the bacteria creates. So same concept here, but it can be coming from a water damaged building. Highly important to address this. And sometimes it's not obvious, right? It's a small leak, a small drip under the kitchen sink or the bathroom sink. It's something behind the wall. Somebody puts a nail into the wall, they hang a picture, and it puts just a micro hole into the water pipe, a water pipe or a sewage pipe or something. And that leads to mold behind the wall. And that can be very toxic. So what I recommend is having a mold testing company come to your house and look for moisture as a first step if you have any potential of that going on in your house. So get ahead of that, replace your front-loading washing machine with a top-loading washer, use non-toxic detergents. Again, my favorite is the BioClean products. They have both liquid and powder detergents. We love those. And then another thing to consider here is new clothing, new bedding, wash all of it, even the organic stuff. Textiles, I have, because I test people so frequently at Solsaria, the clinic, we can test people and see if they have the toxins associated with the pesticides that are put on textiles when the fabrics or yarn are in storage. And my sweet grandmas that crochet and knit all the time, their hands are in that brand new wool or yarn, and they will absorb a ton of those pesticides. And this is because when things like that are stored, for however long in factories and shipped around the world, they are sprayed with things that will prevent them from being eaten by fungus or moths or whatever the perturbation might be, where in India or Bangladesh or wherever, China, wherever these things are being made. So keep that in mind, and always wash new clothing or new bedding at least once. All right. So Marama at home, this is a little snapshot of Marama at home. And I hope that you've taken away a couple of tangible, quick things that are going to make a difference in your health, that you can do that after just this short conversation tonight. And if you would like to get access to the rest of it, there's an 11-module caregiver training course that is available online right now at maramathome.com. I also have an offering because Marama itself, we have a 12-bed facility here in Vista in San Diego County, and we currently have a wait list. You're welcome to join it. We are, I am working as hard as I can, as fast as I can, to expand Marama, and we have a couple of projects going on there. So it's certainly joining the waiting list. It may go quickly if we can get another facility, but really have a conversation with Carrie. She's our director of operations over there. And we're happy to support you at home through the Marama at Home course. I also have an offering for a couple of people a year. I will go to them. If you're curious about that, just connect with Carrie. There's an application at maramaexperience.com. Just apply there, let Carrie know if you have an interest in me coming to you. I wish so much that we had space, because I know there's so many people out there who deserve and need the help that we offer at Marama. And so please know that we're working as hard and as fast as we can to make that an option. And the more of you who get on the wait list, the faster I think that will happen, because it shows that there's interest. So that's what I have to share in terms of my presentation. So I'm going to jump into the Q&A now. Please add your questions now. The first one I have is from Natalie. Thanks, Natalie, for the question. I'm in the process of trying to do a study here in my town of Helena, Montana, and I want to know the ins and outs of obtaining a grant for the study and more about how to get IRB approval for it. Who should I contact for some help with this process? That is a great question that I'm not sure that I have the answer to. The clinical trial that we did through HealthGot, which is the research arm of NUNM, the Natural University. It's in Portland. It's the naturopathic school in Portland. So I would reach out to those guys, and you probably want to work with a grant writer, and then we use the HealthGot IRB. So usually universities, and there may be a university in your town or somewhere in Montana. If you have a relationship with somebody in a university, they can connect you with their IRB. That's the internal review board who makes sure that human research subjects, like those with dementia who are vulnerable, aren't taken advantage of when there is a research study going on. So what causes, okay, from Julie Black. So so these look like urine retention in the bladder, low sodium, syndrome, inappropriate antidiuretic hormone, high vitamin B12, low magnesium, potassium. So these are questions that are really, really great for your doctor. So I can't be your doctor right now. I wish I could be everybody's doctor, but I would highly recommend you connecting with a Bredesen trained provider. The Recode program is phenomenal. So you can sign up for that through Apollo and connect with a really great Bredesen trained provider. I highly recommend that. Why do Alzheimer's patients close their eyes and start talking and saying things like, help me fold those towels, when there aren't any towels to be folded? Yeah, so disorientation, very common with Alzheimer's, right? Their brain thinks that they're in a different place or in a different time than the reality that we share. And so very common. Why does it happen? There's a disease in their brain. And if only Dr. Bredesen was here with me, he probably has a better even answer from his being trained as a neurologist. He's very smart. He has the town halls on Facebook, usually pretty regularly on Thursdays. Ask him that question, Julie, and let me know what he says. So from an anonymous attendee, I've heard of Colombian clay or some other kinds of clay pots used for cooking, but not sure if that would be easy to cook soups, any kind of food in and on them, and how easy or difficult to wash, and brand recommendations. Great question about clay. My concern about ceramic and clay pots is, especially those that are made overseas, China and Mexico in particular, is that many of the glazes have lead in them. So I do my best to avoid anything ceramic that has any sort of glaze. So yeah, I know it's not ever easy. What do I think that regarding the Sherzai neuro approach to Alzheimer's and Loma Linda, a lot of the lifestyle components are similar, but the diet is very different. Yeah, it's vegan. So what do I think about the diet? Well, we're going to dive deep into that from this anonymous attendee. It's a really, really, really great question. I have the Sherzai book right here. I have read, I don't think I read it cover to cover, but I've read lots of it. I have it earmarked and underlined. You're absolutely right. There are a lot of similarities. And my feeling about diet, what I have seen is the ketogenic diet can work miracles. It is so helpful. And even myself, what I feel like I get another hour and a half in my day when I'm in ketosis, because my energy is there. I wake up at 5 a.m. feeling ready for the day. It's kind of amazing. But I don't sustain it all the time, and we're not meant to. And so I think actually going back and forth from a ketogenic diet to like a Sherzai type vegan diet, especially if we do this with the seasons, maybe more ketosis in the winter, more of a vegan diet like right now in the middle of the summer when it's hot, you can do more things that are raw. And really what it's about in my mind is metabolic flexibility. in my brain, right? So what you want is for this hormetic effect, you want, hormesis is essentially this idea that we can stress the system, the complex system that is the human body. We can stress that system a bit. And then what you get is more resilience. And what we see is that the brain prefers to burn ketones for fuel over sugar. And as we age, we are less sensitive to both sugar and insulin. Carbohydrates turn into sugar, or glucose, to be more biochemically accurate. And insulin is what allows that glucose to go into the cell and be turned into fuel. So even when that is happening as we age, we're not efficiently turning that glucose into fuel. When you switch the fuel to ketones, it's almost like the lights turn back on. And so I highly recommend trying a ketogenic diet. And what I love about science, right, is that we get to debate these things and we're learning so much. The science is very, very early on. Dr. Bredesen and I have both done the clinical trials, but they're feasibility trials. They're just 25 participants, small trials saying, can we do this? Is it possible? And the answer is yes. And there's still so much more to learn. Just in January, there was a paper published out of Florida that took 9 participants into ketosis and measured cognitive function. And they all had an improvement in cognitive function in just 6 weeks on a ketogenic diet. So the ketogenic diet is measurably brain healing. And just 2-3 years ago, when I designed our trial, we wanted to do ketosis, but I was guessing. I didn't know for sure. And it does look like there's more and more suggesting that a ketogenic diet is a very brain healing diet. And the books I shared at the beginning, Amy Berger's book, The Alzheimer's Antidote, and Brant Courtwright's book, The Neurogenesis Diet and Lifestyle, both of those describe the science very articulately around why the ketogenic diet is probably preferable, at least not forever, not for your entire life, right? What you want is metabolic flexibility. You want to go back and forth. But for someone with dementia, I recommend aiming for ketosis for 3 to 6 months. It's a brain healing diet. You don't have to stay there forever, but you want to be there for a while. What is the monthly cost at Marama? I hope that later on you will have a senior living community like La Costa Glen, but applying the protocols that we're using. Oh, Cliffy, I hope so too. That is the goal. So the monthly cost at Marama right now, the base is $15,000, which it's crazy to me as well. And with labor, everybody's hearing it, right? Inflation. Do I need to say that? We are trying to make it as accessible and affordable as possible for people, and also sustainable so that we can do it over and over and over again. So I'm working with a group. I'm in a conversation with a group actually in the Midwest about a pilot of a licensing, so that they'll take the concept and I'll help them to implement there. They have, I think, about 1,000 beds across the Midwest. So the idea is that there will be more of these, and that, the real estate doesn't cost as much in Omaha as it does in San Diego. So hopefully that would be able to bring the cost down. And also just the more of them that are available, the more we iterate, the more economy of scale we get, the less the cost. Places like La Costa Glen, start at $10,000, $12,000 a month. So our cost is a bit more, but not that much more. So when we're talking to families and they're weighing, should I pay $12,000 for her to eat cake and cookies and sit in front of the TV versus being at Marama, where she has so much more interaction and she's getting better, her fall risk is less, the diabetes is improving, the hypertension is improving, her mood is better. It's, for a lot of people, it's a no-brainer, but it's not free. And so really my recommendation, that's part of why I created the Marama at Home course, that's much more accessible, is because in my mind, like I said, I'd rather there not be a need for Maramas, right? That everyone can stay home in the fabric of their communities and they do everything they can to prevent this. But we're in triage mode, right? We have in our society, we send people to senior living, and I get it. Like, I can relate to a lot of the daughters who come in and they're raising their own kids and they're trying to care for their parent. They want their parent to get the best care possible, but they've got a full-time job and a house to manage and, you know, everything going on. So I get why it makes sense to put people in senior living or to move into assisted living. And my hope is that we can keep people out of the need for that, at least for my generation and many of the baby boomers who are approaching those decisions. Hopefully that answers your question. I know there's a lot of conversation going on in the chat about what the pricing is. And I know it's so emotional, right? Because it's so much money. And you know, we recommend people that come to the clinic budget about $25,000 for a year of integrative medicine, right? I wish this was all covered by Medicare. It should be, because Alzheimer's is going to bankrupt Medicare. And so, but we need more research, right? And that's, again, like, that's one of my goals, is to be at the seat, have a seat at the table when Medicare, the VA, or big institutions are making decisions about this kind of thing. Is really, all of this should be covered. This is prevention. Putting $25,000 towards this prevents you from, you know, needing to pay $15,000 or $12,000 in a memory care facility. So these are not fun conversations, but I hope that I can give you as many tools as possible to prevent as many people as possible from getting to that stage. An anonymous attendee is asking, I want to put earplugs in so I can sleep well at night, but I'm afraid I will not hear smoke alarms in the other rooms if a fire happens at night or someone knocks at the door in the middle of the night. What can I do instead? So what comes to mind for me first is a white noise machine that could maybe, if you're hearing things that are disturbing your sleep, sometimes just having a white noise can drown that out, or maybe just not putting them in quite so deeply. From Barbara, do I have an opinion about a sleep number mattress? So I don't have an opinion about a sleep number mattress other than that it's not organic. And if you're using an old mattress, my concern is mold. So look, if it's like a box spring in a mattress, I can't tell you how many. I see a lot of mold patients in the clinic and dementia. My practice is essentially half and half, and there's a lot of times there's overlap. So I cannot tell you how many people have lifted up their mattress from the box spring and found a bunch of mold under it and then been like, oh my God, that is why I'm sick. That's why I can't think straight. And then once they change the mattress or they move, they start feeling a whole lot better. So old mattresses scare me, and non-organic new mattresses scare me. So I recommend, if you're looking for a new mattress, go get an avocado one or get the migraine mattress. And when you get the migraine mattress, you get the one, I just did this like 2 weeks ago. So you get the one that is coil free, doesn't have the springs. It's like non-latex, I think. Oh gosh, I'll put this somewhere online so that you know which one to get. There's some options, and the one that you want is specific. From an anonymous attendee, what do you use to store leftovers, prepare foods, et cetera, in the freezer? I use Pyrex dishes. So you can find them at Costco, on Amazon, at Target, Walmart, wherever you shop, you can find Pyrex glass dishes. They will have that Tupperware type lid, and that's fine, because usually you definitely don't ever heat. Obviously, if you heat that, it'll melt, not in the microwave. I don't use a microwave. So I think everyone thinks I'm crazy. My mom thinks I'm crazy because I don't like microwaves, but it doesn't even get the food hot all the way. It's like one part is cold, one part is hot, burning your mouth. So I just use the stove or the little toaster oven. And so you wouldn't want to put those lids in there, right? Because then that'll melt. And then glass to freeze everything in. It works great. Is BPA-free plastic okay? No, sorry. Is lead the only thing we should be concerned about in the ceramic products we buy? What are the best affordable brands for ceramic kitchenware? Lastly, ceramic is used in holistic dentistry. And the dentist, okay, there's a lot of questions here. So the best ceramic products would be, you ask. So ask, like, what is used in the glaze? It's the mamas out there. Oh my gosh, they're the best, right? Because they are hyper vigilant about non-toxic products. So, what's her name? Maybe some of you have an idea of there's these non-toxic moms who have blogs and stuff. They do a really good job identifying brands, and then they have like, you know, they're influencers, so they tell everybody what to buy. That's where I look first, but that Corelle is the best. What we use at Marama is it's all white. So it is ceramic, but it's all white. So if you don't have any glaze on there, you're much less likely. Wellness Mama, thank you. I knew somebody would. Well, no, Katie has a lot of stuff. She's great, but there's another one. But yeah, she's great too. She has a bunch of products that she sells. But yeah, I wish I had an exact one for you. Thank you for this question, because I'll figure it out. I have been looking for them myself, but I just white. And then the ceramic used in holistic dentistry. So that's going to be different. Like what the porcelain that they put in your mouth, and really it depends what you're getting. Some people use gold. Gold is totally inert. So if they're molars or something, it's also more, I think, has more integrity, less likely to chip or break. But talk to a biological dentist. So dental health is as important as sleep, right? Like I always debate, like, what's my favorite? Where do I want to start? What's most important? And the diet, the environment. I mean, it's all fun and good stuff, but the dental stuff, holistic dentistry, go to a biological dentist. There's like an International Society of Biological Dentists. So go to that website, find somebody near you. I'm not an expert in dentistry. Chip Whitney, he's a medical doctor. He's in Pennsylvania. He's fantastic. He teaches the dentistry portion of Dr. Bredesen's Recode to providers and dentists. And he has a lot of great information. He was interviewed in the summit. So if you have access to the full summit, you could go back to that, or you could reach out to him and his clinic. Again, his name is Chip Whitney, and he's a medical doctor who's in Pennsylvania. I think he's in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And he has a ton of great information about that. And then implants, you don't usually use ceramic implants. You would use zirconium. I believe there's a couple of options. And the biological dentist I see, I have an implant, and what she did was a blood test on me to see what metals I might be sensitive to. I thank God wasn't sensitive to any metals. So I was I had options in terms of my implant, but that's a great way to know, am I going to react to my implant when they put it in, right? They're so expensive, and you don't want to have that happening after you go through all of that. The dentist is bad enough to have to go once, let alone having that stuff redone. So yeah, check with the biological dentist. They'll have really good information for you. Know of any naturopathic doctors or functional medicine doctors in San Jose area? Yes. So BioReset is right in oh gosh, I was just up there in January. Why am I blanking? Campbell is where they are. And so they're very close to San Jose on the peninsula. And they do much of what I do. Dr. Matt Cook is the primary doctor there. Dr. Harry McIlroy is also fantastic, a good friend of mine. And so reach out to those guys. And then Dr. Bredesen or the ABOE4, so ABOE4.info has a list of Bredesen trained providers. And those, it's not always up to date, but at least it gives you a starting point. The other thing you can do is Google Bredesen trained providers and your area where you're looking for them. And then also the other piece is looking on the IFM website, so the Institute for Functional Medicine, or AANP, the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians. They have a naturopathic doctor locator. From Cynthia Rodriguez, do you have thoughts on ozone washing machine that attaches to the washing machine and uses no detergent? My sister has it and I love it because of multiple chemical sensitivity issues. Wow, I'm so happy. See, I learned so much from you guys. Thank you. I've never even heard of that. I'm like embarrassed to tell you that. But this is awesome. I like want to write it down and I don't have a pen, but I am going to, here's one. Because this is the kind of thing that I nerd out on, and I am so grateful to know that this exists. Thank you, Cynthia. And I'm sorry, I have nothing to add. Do you know who treats human mycotoxosis? Yeah, we do. So from Geraldine Molina, what you probably want is to go to Neil Nathan's website. So I was trained by Dr. Neil Nathan. His book is called Toxins. This is my other Bible outside of the Bredesen book. And anybody trained by Dr. Neil Nathan usually is good at what they do and can help with mycotoxins. From Julie, how dangerous is the shrinking of gray matter in the brain, and can this be fixed? Great question. So imaging comes up here, and imaging is not my forte. It's not something that I've done a lot of. We do use the EEG. We use a Wavi EEG, which gets some information and then can track changes over time. In the recent Bredesen paper, the one that I mentioned that was just published in the July issue of the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease, or Journal of Alzheimer's and Dementia. Oh God, I need to know that. So in that paper, Dr. Bredesen and his Cat Tubes, Anne Hathaway, the doctors who did that work, they did MRIs before and after. And what they showed is that you get more gray matter, white matter. Now I'm not sure. Your brain grows. They have less hippocampal, so you would expect hippocampal atrophy as we age. They saw either less atrophy or they saw actually growth in the brain. So again, I'm not an imaging expert. It's logistically, it's really hard, and there's contrast involved and people are sensitive to it, and it's expensive, and it doesn't change my intervention. What changes my intervention is the why. It's if you have toxins, if your hormones are off, if your glycotoxicity is high, if you have a lot of blood sugar circulating. So you really want to make sure that those tests are covered first before, in my opinion, before you're really looking at imaging. However, picture tells 1,000 words, speaks 1,000 words. So I get why people find it so valuable. And certainly when we do our follow-ups trial, I'd love to include some imaging. I just didn't in the first one, so I don't know that much, and I don't use it a lot with patients. From Callie Gibbons, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Are water or ice lines for outside dispensers on fridges a problem for mold? Usually that's mostly plastic, and so plastic won't grow mold the way wood will, or drywall is the worst. So those are the ones that you really want to, where you really want to pay attention. But if you have like a wood floor under your refrigerator and there's a drip, and your dispenser, your water dispenser is constantly dripping, then onto that wood floor, then certainly that's something that you want to keep in mind and probably have tested, or replace it with tile or something else that doesn't get moldy. From Diane Shoemaker, if I am someone who has 2 parents who have dementia and I have Lyme and biotoxin illness, can I work with you or one of your doctors at Solseri if I have symptoms and I'm concerned about developing dementia? I live in Oceanside. Diane, absolutely. We would love to see you. Yeah, it would be a privilege. And you are the type of person that we help day in and day out. So we'd be delighted to see you. I'll put the clinic phone number. You would talk to Whitney. And the number is I am 760-385-8683. Okay. There, you should have the number, and Whitney is who you want to chat with. Yeah, at Solseri, we have a few offerings, right? So I'll come to you. I can't do that a lot because just like the time constraints, but for a couple people a year, I'll go to them. And then Marama, you can get on the waiting list. And then we have the Marama at Home course that you can do online. So you can do that from the comfort of your own home. You can, that's like highly accessible. And I hope that, you got a taste of that tonight. And then you can come to Solseri and be a patient. Again, we recommend that you plan on about $25,000 over the course of a year to 18 months to be really proactive and really get ahead of that. And I hope that everyone thinks that, that's a good investment. It frustrates me more than anyone that it's not covered by insurance. And then the other super, super high value thing that we offer is working with a health coach. And if you did nothing else, that is the highest value, the highest return, because we basically go, the health coaches, we work with Julie Luby and Kaliko and Mona are the two that we're working with the most closely right now. There's a few others that we work with, but they have worked with us for a while and they know how I work. They've seen patients get better. They've helped a ton of patients through the process. And with Julie Luby, she worked with us on the research side of things. So we know her well. We've seen what she's capable of. And again, that health coaching, again, you would call and chat with Whitney about that. That is like, I think if you did nothing else, if finances are an issue, health coaching is the highest value thing you can do. And I think that through Apollo, of course, as well, is the Recode program. I can't tell you how many people have come in with just the book and said, I'm 75% better. Can you help me get the icing on the cake through the clinical side of things? But a lot of this you can do on time, on your own over time. And actually, Rini D. Again, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Wary of overwhelming my elderly parents with too much change. Is it best to implement the changes gradually? So this is such a good question. And my answer to that is not really. It's really best to do all of it. And this is kind of Bredesen's idea of like, if you have 36 holes in the roof and you patch one hole, you still have a leaky roof. What I have seen clinically is that the more you can do, the more comprehensively you get, like this is an all-in thing. If you can dive in completely, you are going to get more return faster. But I also get it, like you can only do what you can do. And so, and overwhelm will cause paralysis and you do nothing. So certainly if you can change things even a little bit over the course of time, your trajectory shifts a lot. So do everything that you can. And I would still encourage you to do as much as possible, all of it. If you can only do two things, what I recommend is the ketogenic diet and then LiveO2, which I'm going to speak to more in 2 weeks. So on week 3, when we talk about activities, I'll talk more about LiveO2, but those two things, like if you could do only 2 things, those would be them. Are there concerns about doing a ketogenic diet from Michelle without a gallbladder if someone has fatty liver and gallstones? So good question. What are the contraindications with a ketogenic diet? I highly recommend working with a provider and a health coach when you have had a cholecystectomy, when you don't have a gallbladder, because it's hard to process fats and it's a high fat diet. So you need to be eating small, frequent, but still the intermittent fasting probably, so a shorter eating window, but instead of having like 2 meals and that, probably having it more spread out. There are strategies certainly that you can take here, Michelle, and I would recommend working with someone like Kaliko or Julie so that you can troubleshoot. There's going to be stuff that comes up. There always is when you go into ketosis, whether it's constipation or muscle aches or, cramping. There's so many things, blood sugar dropping, irritability, there's all kinds of things that come up as you go into ketosis. And so having that health coach there to hold your hand and help you through that process, get you up over the hump so that you're getting the benefits is really, really, really valuable. And we'll talk more about ketogenic diet, of course, next week. Can I share what the most surprising thing I've learned since opening Marama? Yes, thanks, Fiona, for asking. So we opened Marama. So I thought of Marama in February of 2019, imagined the concept, and then we closed on the property in December of 2019. And that was when we announced that this was going to happen. And we had a waiting list very quickly. And then COVID hit in 2020, the week after we opened. So what an exciting ride. And part of what happened was in December, a woman called me and said, my dear friend has severe dementia and she's been on the Bredesen protocol and I would love for her to move into Marama, but her MOCA is a 0. And because we had this waiting list and we only have 12 beds, I said, sadly, I don't think that it's the best fit because I want to save the beds for the people I have the most confidence we can help. So people with MOCA scores in like the 16, 18, maybe down to 12 kind of range. I thought that was where we were going to get the most traction. And so because I really wanted to make sure we could really help people, and this is proof of concept, it felt like high stakes, I said no. And then she called me a year later as the vaccines were rolling out and said, hey, would you reconsider having my friend come to Marama? I think it's the best place for her. And I said, yes. And so she moved in, and with her mocha, gosh, I'm gonna start to cry because it's been phenomenal. It's been so amazing what she has shown us is possible when it comes to severe dementia. This patient has just surprised us all with how well she's done. She has read someone's name tag. She went from essentially nonverbal and unable to communicate to speaking in clear sentences, and just blowing us away with how the body can heal, how the brain can heal. So again, she's not going back to work. I wish she could. She is an absolute inspiration to all of us. She was actually in a hospice in January of this year. So she moved in a while back. It had been a year that she'd been there, and she had an injury in January and they put her on hospice. And the other day, our IV doctor was over there, Dr. Lund, who I work with very closely here, was over there, and she had been giving her IVs. We did exosomes and stem cells, and like we threw everything at it. Gosh, she is such a miracle. And she grabbed the doctor's arm and looked her in the eye and said, thank you, come back soon. And I mean, just like mind-blowing stuff after being essentially nonverbal. So that is the most surprising thing that I've learned since opening Marama, is just like what is possible for people, even with severe disease. And Dr. Bredesen talks about doing a SARA trial, the Severe Alzheimer's Reversal Attempt. And I'm always cheering him on to do that, because although not everybody with that severe level of disease will get better or will fully, I've yet to see someone like that fully recover. I'm so hopeful that it's absolutely possible, right? She could probably recover even more. We still need to learn more. Like the science is behind, we've put so much effort and time and money and resource into this beta amyloid plaque hypothesis, which if anybody wants to nerd out on that story, this book, How Not to Study a Disease, The Story of Alzheimer's by Carl Harroup, is a phenomenal just story of why we got so off track with this dementia question. And I think that really Dr. Bredesen is not the only one, obviously, like Perlmutter and Mark Hyman. There's a lot of people who are experiencing this, all the doctors that Dr. Bredesen has trained, but Dr. Bredesen really was the one shouting into the wind saying, hey, we need to look at multimodal integrative approaches, and then started publishing things that shows that it works. So anyways, I know I'm preaching to the choir. We like forest bathing, Hinoki cypress smell. Oh, that sounds so lovely. Next to no smell, but would be putting, incense or aromatherapy. Incense, it's burnt, you're burning something. And so I prefer that to not be inhaled, but aromatherapy mist sounds like it could be very lovely. From Julie, how does Dr. Gundry's diet compare to the ketogenic diet? So Dr. Gundry does, and Dr. Gundry and Dr. Bredesen are dear friends. Like they are oxalates and the lectins, do they play a role? So, like the Sherazai's, the keto diet, the Gundry diet, all of these different diets. Hyman has his vegan diet, the paleo vegan kind of diet. The consistency here is inconsistency. You really want to, like an ancestral diet, you mixed it up. You didn't have the same foods available 365 days a year. You didn't have, fats available all the time. You didn't have carbohydrates available all the time. You ate seasonally. You fasted sometimes. So those are the things that are important. So it's not that one diet is right. It's that different diets are right for different seasons of our life, of the year, different people. So based on your genetics. So there's just a lot of things that you can individualize. The basics that I recommend are a ketogenic diet for 3 to 6 months if you're struggling with dementia. If you're looking to prevent, I would say 1 month a quarter, go into ketosis. or it could be 2 weeks, you know, it can be split up, or it can be a consecutive month. You don't want to be in ketosis, especially at first. You don't want to do like 3 days in ketosis and then 4 days out. You can do that later. Usually we go 4 to 5 days in ketosis and then 2 or 3 days out in glycolysis, burning sugars for fuel. And the Gundry diet, you know, my concern is that when people start to limit their food more and more and more and more, like if you're on FODMAPs and Gundry and trying to be in ketosis, or if you're vegan and trying to be keto, all of a sudden you can't eat much variety, and variety is important. That's how you get all those phytonutrients. Gundry, I also hesitate sometimes because he reduces veggies, right? But talk to a health coach. That's how you can really understand. And like oxalates, oxalates are highly inflammatory, but you can measure them. So we would measure them on an oat test, is how I would try to answer that question. From Barbara, can you please keep us appraised of the status of any licensing in other parts of the country? Sorry if you can hear my daughter, she's out there. Yes, absolutely. If you're on the email list, you will be one of the first to know. When I'm talking about expanding to the Midwest, what areas are you specifically talking about? It's a little too early for me to discuss that, but I promise if you are on the list, then you will be one of the first to know as soon as I'm ready to share. We're currently doing some HBOT in Northwest Iowa because they have seen success in dementia patients with that. But I feel like your protocols are really what needs to be used along with these treatments. Absolutely, I completely agree. So the hyperbaric oxygen is phenomenal. I like LiVO2 as well. There are a few different oxygen therapies, but oxygen therapy is important. And part of, right, that's like our 36 holes in the roof analogy. Oxygen is one hole. If you still have glycotoxicity, you still have mercury, you still have mycotoxins, you haven't addressed your hormones, then you still have a leaky roof. So certainly, I think oxygen is a great idea. I mean, plasmapheresis is a great idea, but you don't want to do any of these things in isolation. And then I see somebody asking, how do I get on the list for new info? So you can go to Marama, maramaexperience.com and add your email there, or solcere.com, SOLCERE, add your email there. Or if you were part of the summit, if that's how you got on this list, then you're already on the list. So if you got the email that invited you to this webinar, you're in the club. Do I think green pan is safe? This is one of those things I'm telling you. There's all these products out there. I haven't tried them all. I don't know about them all. I don't know about that one. I use the Instapot because it's stainless. So Our Place Always Pan, I don't know that one. Sorry, I wish I knew all of these. I just don't know each, it's like supplements. I don't know every brand. The ones that I use, I'm obviously very familiar with and I feel good about. And they're also so inexpensive, like just plain stainless and plain good old, like the Lodge, like basic generic cast iron. It's affordable. I just go back to that every time. Can you please suggest your top 3 air purifiers for home use? So the GC Multi by IQ Air is the one that I recommend. I would say do not use Molecule for what that's worth. It's high cost, really great marketing. They're much prettier than the GC Multi, but they do not work as well. And I've seen that over and over again and heard other doctors say that they have patients who've had the same experience or they've tested and had the same experience. So GC Multi by IQ Air, the multi-gas. Air Doctor, I think it's pretty good. People talk about that one. And I don't know about others. I just could always go back to that IQ Air because it's the person I trust, my environmental medicine, environmental medicine, environmental toxicology guy who tests the homes in my area. He recommends that one and he's like a nerd in the best possible way. So I trust him. Anonymous attendee, are there certain countries that ceramics used in dentistry can be reliable and are cleanest? So yeah, Germany and Switzerland is where I think some of those implants are coming from. Dr. Klinghardt, he uses the ones that come from Switzerland. I think that's what I ended up getting. So I don't really have much more information than that. I would recommend, oh, thanks, Cynthia, for this link. I would recommend going to a biological dentist and asking those questions. Julie, I've gone to the functional medicine websites and integrative websites, but I can't find Bredesen doctors in LA. I know there aren't really any. It's kind of wild. Hopefully there will be a Bredesen doctor in LA. I think there is a geriatrician who's there. He has, oh, I'm gonna forget his name. I think there's one person in LA and he has a concierge practice and he was trained by Dr. Bredesen. So I would look for him. I wish I had his name. I'm so sorry. He's an Indian, South Asian guy. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I don't know his name. Is it better to buy organic from the store than the farmer's market due to the farm food may not be organic? I love the farmer's market because you can talk to the farmer and you can ask them and they can tell you if they use pesticides or not, because it's expensive to get certified organic, that certification. It's a super expensive process. So a lot of farmers at the farmer's market will use organic farming methods, and sometimes they'll use regenerative ag, which is even better. So you want to, I mean, that's ideal. If you can go to a farmer's market and ask the farmer directly about their farming practices, get a sense of their values, what they're spraying, what they're using for pesticides and herbicides, I would think that that is actually better than going to the store. Do stem cells help? Yes, unequivocally. From my experience, the answer is yes. All right. I do have to wrap up. If you've heard, my daughter is here and she is getting hungry for dinner, I'm sure. So I do have to wrap up. This has been so much fun. Thank you all for your engagement and participation. I hope that you've gotten a lot out of this. It's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all next week. And please put those questions in as soon as you can. When, if you have questions that didn't get answered tonight, please copy them and paste them so that I can get to them next week. I always want to get to them. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being the pioneers here. We're so grateful to have you joining the team. Good night, everyone. See you next week.